wa rahmatullah. Last time we covered certain terminologies that are listed on the screen as far as the definition of these terminologies. Those terminologies are the terminologies used in the context of marriage all throughout the Quran, which means these terms are governing terms of the relationship. They set not only the tone, but the guidelines of what this relationship is about. We spoke about taqwa, dwelling with them in decency and respect, contentment, peace and settlement for the husband, for the wife, for the kids, the concept of tranquility, reaching out. What did Sister Hawa call it? Ingratiation? Ingratiation. Yeah. I found that mawadda is different from ingratiation, but it's close. It's close. Then we talked about that men and women are garments for each other. They cover each other. They give comfort to each other. They give beauty to each other. And we also spoke about the concept of mutual acceptance and mutual consultation. Today we are going to get the citations of the references for these concepts in the Quran and explain how do they apply to real life. Here we got the first ayah in the surah of An-Nisa, surah titled Women, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O mankind, be dutiful to your Lord, be fearful, be respectful, be observant of to your Lord, who created you from a single soul. That is said to be Adam, right? And I explained last time that the only one who was actually created from Adam is Eve, and everyone else comes from an Eve. So we are not all created from Adam, we are all created from Eve. Indirectly from Adam, definitely, but directly from Eve. And from him, from Adam, Allah created his spouse, which is Hawa. And from them both, He created many men and women, and fear Allah, through whom you demand your mutual rights, and the wombs, the kinship. Surely Allah is ever an all-watcher over you. Well, definitely, as I mentioned before, I do have some reservation about the accuracy of the translation, but it suffices the meaning. It captures a good part of the meaning. Here the ayah's focus is fear Allah, be observant of Allah. And this is directed at specifically men and women in the context of marriage. Be dutiful to Allah, be observant of Allah. Excuse me. If people were to observe Allah in any aspect of their life would be different. But it's quite unfortunate that we use our intel and forget about Allah. We want to get things done our way, so we put the revelation and the Quran and the Sunnah on the side and try to get around the issues to get what we want. Allah wants us to put the revelation as our primary reference and to make sure that we observe Allah at all times, not just when we want or need something. And this rule is mutual. Men and women are expected to be observant of Allah and to observe also the holiness of His name that we invoke and we call on to help and support and to get us what we need. In mentioning the purpose of creating Eve from Adam, Allah here says that it is He who has created you from a single soul. a single person, and then he created from him his spouse. وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا, calling Eve as his zawj, his wife, in order that they may enjoy the pleasure of living with each other. When he had intercourse or sexual relation with her, she became pregnant and she carried it about lightly. Then, when it became heavy, they both invoked Allah's name, their Lord, saying, "If you give us a righteous, good child, we shall indeed be among the grateful." This is the promise that families make to Allah, saying, if you give us a righteous child, we'll be good. And indeed He gives them, but then people turn against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People turn against Allah. So the highlight of this citation here is that Hawa is created from his soul, from a single person. Here is not a right translation. The right word is soul. Min nafs wahida, from a single soul. And the other highlight here is the fact that so that he might enjoy the pleasure of living with her, as if Eve is created for Adam, and it is true, she was, right? But you read the next reference that we'll bring here, in the ayah in Surah Al-Rum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and among his signs is this, that he created for you spouses from among your souls. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, to pair with, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, to dwell with them in tranquility and peace. So the purpose of marriage is not just that the woman is created for the comfort of man, but also the man here is included as a source of sakan, a source of contentment and comfort for the woman. So the Quran is not taking a gender position. The Quran is saying, in the eyes of Allah, in the sight of Allah, males or females are the same. I have created you both to give comfort to each other. So it's not just one-sided as the previous ayah may be misread. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and dwell with them بالمعروف. We explained before that ma'ruf is whatever decent people and righteous people accept as a norm. Not any norm in any society, whether righteous or not, but the ma'ruf, which is the norm, is what righteous people practice and have as tradition of goodness, care, and mutual keenness to protect and support each other. Customary beautiful and extra goodness. All of these are definitions for the word ma'ruf. So Allah says, dwell with them, meaning your women, bil ma'ruf, and the ma'ruf is whatever decent cultures, customs, and habits that righteous people agree to live with as the norm. Here in this reference in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 233, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, using the word taradin, which is mutual satisfaction, watashawur, mutual consultation, as a foundation of resolving whether or not to wean a child. When a person divorces his wife and she has a child that is infant, is in the breastfeeding stage of his or her life, then Allah is saying, if you both want to wean the child, that's okay, so long as it is with mutual consultation and mutual acceptance and satisfaction on both sides of the parents. So in this, Allah sets mutual consultation and mutual satisfaction as a foundation for family decision making. So this is not to be understood as a limited principle for a limited occasion, which is to wean a child. It is for everything in the family. It has to be done with mutual consultation and mutual acceptance. Here is the translation. It says, if they both decide on weaning by mutual consent and after due consultation, there is no sin on them. Which implies also that no one should impose their position on the other when it is a family interest. Because the woman could say, I am the one who's breastfeeding the child. I'm the one who knows when he is happy, when he is not. What business do you have with it? But the Quran says no, mutual consultation between the two. The father could say, I'm the one taking care of everybody here, so my word has to go. It says mutual consultation. Why is mutual consultation important? Not only in this issue, but every issue that affects the two sides in the family. It is because both of them have something at stake with what goes on, and both of them will bear the consequences. Some brothers, unfortunately, they would say, okay, I will consult with her, but I will, because I have the authority to make the final decision, then she just has to listen. So they ask the question and listen to whatever the wife has to say, and they ignore what she says completely, and they go with their own decision as if no discussion had taken place. But the Quran wants us to actually exercise mutual consultation and not to ignore each other's opinion. We spoke at length last time about mawaddah and rahmah.
Sorry, can I ask a question about the constitution?
Yes.
So what if it's something that doesn't affect her so much? In that case, does he have more weight in on the decision?
Like what?
I don't know. I can't think of one now, but I know it happens. Buying a car, or I don't know.
She wants to buy a car.
Going on a business trip or anything. Like, it doesn't affect her that much, you know? Does he have more weight on the decision?
It depends whose investment is going to go into that project. Okay? So, for example, if she wants to buy her own car, right? She can buy without consulting him if it is completely her money, right? But consultation brings people closer to each other, even if it is something personal, right?
Like, I've noticed a few times, like, people have said to me, for example, you know, we're head to head on this issue, and it's really important to me, and I have my own job. Okay, fine, I'll just go do it myself. You know, and that causes some, distance between.
Because the husband and the wife relationship is not to be managed by the sword of the law. It has to be managed by mutual consent. Like, if I buy something new, I ask my wife, what do you think? If she buys something new, she tells me, what do you think? So not talking means we are turning from spouses into roommates. I get what I want, you get what you want, and that's it. And this is where the gap comes in. When people act as if they are not with a spouse, they are with a roommate. So they act completely independent. But that's not the proper relationship. Yes. Yes.
Some men, they just set up their mind as a culturally, even though they say they practice the religion, it's like just the way they grow up and set up in this way. It's hard for to change their habit now, So what should women do? Because this is the way his father, the way this is just the way he was, and now it's very difficult to overnight or overnight to change everything with this habit.
We all, as humans, use our customs, habits, and family traditions in managing our life, unless we learn something better, unless we know something is really gonna pay off handsomely. So we change our ways. So not everybody will copy their family unless it pays off. If it doesn't pay off, people decide to change. Some people are so stubborn that even if it doesn't pay off and it costs them a lot of price, a lot of loss, they still are more comfortable losing the money and the interest but following the traditions. Those are not the majority, alhamdulillah. But everybody else, we are prone to temptation. If you reward your husband for doing something that you like, and he likes the reward you give him, he would want to change to get more reward of the same. Okay? But if you punish him for not doing what you want to do, and he's stubborn, he's going to insist on doing more of the same because he wants to punish you back. So the dynamic in the relationship, unfortunately, governs what's going to go on each one's side. So if the dynamics are good, everybody is willing to chip in, participate, be lenient, and laissez-passer, laissez-faire, as they call. But if people are entrenched in their position, one side or the two, then they tend to clash more, and life becomes a series of clashes all the time. This is the way it has been in the family. So to change this dynamic, one person at least has to decide that he or she is going to be the bigger head, the better head, the bigger heart, and they start to change the dynamic from their side. Then something will come up on the other side as well. I hope that this answers your question. Okay, any other question? Okay. Mutual consultation and satisfaction, as I mentioned, is an entrenched principle, and it runs the gamut of areas and spheres of influence. If you consult with your husband on things that he didn't expect you to consult, he also will be encouraged to consult with you on things that he used to do on his own. Unfortunately, most brothers and sisters, they get married. I'm talking about in the US setup. Most people, they do not move necessarily from their family home to the marital home. They live single for some time. They get the habits of being single, being free, doing anything they want, sleeping anytime they want, and changing entrenched habits becomes very difficult. I hear from some sisters that some brothers treat them like a roommate, and they don't treat the wife as a new person in their life, someone they love, someone they care for, and the sisters feel alienated in the beginning of the relationship, as if they kind of like boarded the wrong ship, because they are not feeling welcome, they are not feeling that there is even a desire to accommodate them. So they feel that it is a ship run by a captain and they have no place. Islam teaches us that while the man is a captain in the ship, but the wife is not just a mere passenger on the ship. She is his co-pilot. And when he is absent, she takes care of the whole ship. So we need to train our husbands that we accept them as captains, but the more they train you, the better off they become, because when they leave the home to do whatever, you, the wives, can take care of the entire affairs of the family. And that happens at times we don't want it to happen, and at times that it normally happens. So when a husband is sick or unable or disabled or passes away, the wife pulls everything forward. So if she's not trained during his life, during his ability, then she will not be able to pull the train forward and keep the ship sailing. So we need to share those issues with our husbands so that they understand that this is not about selfish competition. It is about the ability to manage the affairs of the family. Okay? Also, husbands are better encouraged to consult and counsel and respect the counsel of their wives, because they also learn whoever is on the ship has an opinion, has a feeling. And when they get adjusted in their own decision-making process and their ways to meet the needs of their passengers, they have a happy sail. They have no problem, they have no complaints, and it's easier for them to manage a ship that has no problem. But when they keep everything closed and away from their wives, they get stuck when there is a problem because there is no partnership, there is no communication. So we need to explain those issues to our husbands to make them aware of what payoff they get when they participate with you as partners in the family affairs. Having said that, there are matters in the families that finally, when you agree, it's okay. When you convince him of your opinion, it's okay. But what if you couldn't convince him of your opinion, even though you may be right? But for whatever reason, you couldn't convince him of your opinion. What do you want him to do? He will have to go by his opinion, right? And that happens sometimes. Some sisters insist, no, if we disagree, we have to go to a judge between the two of us. Family affairs could not be run like this. You couldn't have a judge on demand, like every time you disagree with your husband on something, that a judge will have to stand by and come to pull parties apart. But you have to develop a mechanism in which you voice your opinion and he voices his opinion and you see which one is better. And when you agree, fine. When you disagree, someone has to be the final arbiter, take decisions and bear the responsibility for the consequences. The Quran assigned the man that responsibility. The Quran says that men are in charge of the affairs of the family, the women and the children. So they become like the president of a company. Some executive, some CEO will have to make the final decision when nobody wants to agree with nobody. So that is the person that is going to bear the responsibility for whatever happens after. Let us say, for example, your husband gets a job in California. He likes the offer, and he likes the weather, and he likes what he has seen in the interview, right? And he comes back home and says, they give me a good offer. No, but my family is here. You know, I told you, I don't want to move away from my family. My mom helps me with the kids from time to time. And you're going about your work and I will be alone and stuff. It's not going to work. I have no friends there. Maybe you like the people you saw, but So if you couldn't convince him to stay and he sees that it pays off for him to move on, you both have to decide, do you really want to stay together? Or do you want to force him? Or does he want to force you? Or does one of you want to act like a wise person in the crowd and move on? Because this is a human conflict. And we are prone to conflicts all the time because we feel different about things. We see things in different values, right? We have different priorities at times, right? So my stay next to my family is a top priority, but his job is a top priority. He wants to provide for his family, right? So you have to see where the value really is, okay? So if you convince your husband to agree, this will be great. If you couldn't, then try to work with his choice because the family has to keep moving forward. Back to the mawadda and rahmah. Mawadda is not really affection, okay? Here it is translated as affection, but as I explained before, mawadda is to do what it takes to earn the love of someone. That's mawadda. So when you send somebody a gift, that's called mawadda, tawaddud, that you're trying to gain their love. If you stand with somebody when they need you, it is a good thing to do religiously and as ethics go, but at the same time, you are doing something that would earn you their love and their respect. Okay? So earning somebody's love is called a process of tawaddud, that you continue to show respect, support, care, compassion, love, attention. All of these elements are intended to earn you their love. This is called tawaddud. Okay? So Allah is saying that He has made between us, men and women, in the context of marriage, an inclination for earning each other's love. That inclination towards seeking each other's love is called mawadda. Some people say, oh, Allah didn't put mawadda between me and my spouse. No, He did, but you don't want to use it. There are things that you do that you know your wife loves you when you do it, right? Don't do the opposite and say, Allah didn't tell me that. So we have to do what Allah expects of us. He has already installed in us the ability to be decent, the ability to be kind, to be compassionate. And this is what mawadda and tawaddud is about. Also, another element which is very important is mercy. To be merciful, to extend mercy. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, ما يكون الرفق في شيء إلا زانه. Kindness and leniency, they do not involve anything, but they make it very beautiful. When leniency and care and mercy are embedded in anything, they make it very beautiful. When harshness is embedded or involved in anything, it makes it very difficult. So ما يكون الرفق في شيء إلا زانه ولا العنف في شيء إلا شانه. Unf or violence makes things ugly and unbearable. Why is earning somebody's love important as a pillar in marriage? It is important because if I make it my mission that you are happy, and you make it your mission that I am happy, both of us control and own our happiness and control each other's happiness. But if we want to succeed and make it our mission to make each other happy, both of us will succeed. But if we become selfish like children, everybody wants what the other side has, and nobody wants to give anything to the other side, then we make each other's life quite difficult. So mawadda and rahmah are very essential pillars for happiness in the family. Now we will go to some basic husband-wife mutual and complementary duties and responsibilities. You have the husband who bears certain duties to his family, and you have the wife that has certain responsibilities towards her family. The husband engages the wife, brings gifts, and tries to endear his wife. And how does he do it? By gifts, nice talking, nice this, nice that, until she agrees. And when she accepts, then she promises to be cooperative and obedient. Then it's embedded in the marriage agreement that he also agrees to be consultative and to be open-minded and to communicate. This is what makes the two work together. Then, as he is committed to provision and taking care of the material family needs, she is presumed also committed to take care of the household needs that the husband is not available to do. The husband and the wife together commit to education and exchange of advice. So this is a mutual duty between the two of them. To give his family access to the mosque, and specifically for the children. But the wife also needs access. The Prophet ﷺ says, لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد الله. Don't prevent the female servants of Allah from coming to the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The husband takes care of the wife's personal expenses, and the wife spends whatever they get of resources moderately and reasonably in matters that are really deserving. The husband has to be reasonable, and the wife needs to seek permission before she leaves the home. Because if the wife leaves the home and the husband doesn't know, who is responsible for her safety, for her protection in case something happens? Islam says he is responsible for her safety and her well-being if something happens. So he needs to be reasonable. Some people think that because the wife needs to ask her husband any second she wants to go out, that she needs to ask his permission every day to go to work. But that is not reasonable. That's not reasonable. But she needs to let him know what her schedule is, when does she leave. Personally, I do not move from one place to another without telling my wife, because if she needs me, she needs to know if she could rely on me or she needs to call someone else. So if I'm going 20 miles away, I have to tell her. So we have to be reasonable with each other, and we have to level with each other. The husband bears financial responsibility, and the wife's financial resources are independent from the husband's resources. So if the husband makes that much money, he spends some of it on his basic responsibilities. Whatever is left is his. The wife, if she makes money or she has inheritance or she has business, she makes money that is fully hers, and she covers her responsibility or responsibilities from her income. Okay? But it is the duty of the husband to provide fully for the wife's basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, medical care, so on and so forth. There is no harm in the current contemporary structure of family and businesses that the wife may be the one who has insurance through her employer, and she is the one providing the insurance for her husband, right? Because that is a structure. So if his business doesn't offer insurance, I don't have my insurance to tell him, that's my insurance, you go fend for yourself for insurance. So whenever there is a facility that both can use together, they need to use it together, and they should not make an issue out of it. So the financial independence of the husband and the wife is also a pillar in the relationship. And in many cases, when there is a money dispute in the family, it is because people do not observe or do not know what the limits are. Most people today get married and say 50-50, as if this 50-50 is fair. But if 50-50 is fair, it means that everything has to be 50-50. I buy my own food, you buy your own food, right? You go to your work, I go to my work. We come home, both of us will pull up our sleeves and start cleaning and cooking and taking care of the kids, right? You do it one day, I do it one day. But life does not lend itself for a 50-50 distribution of everything. It has to be by mutual consultation and mutual acceptance on both sides. I know that those issues will bring a lot of questions.
Yeah, there are a lot among young people that are born and raised in the West. I think when they look at this, like my marriage is pretty much traditional like this, but I know that a lot of young people, they're like 50-50 all the way. What perspective would you, what advice would you give to those?
Well, I will give them the ayat in Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 30 to 34. In those ayat, the Quran explains that women have a share of what they earn and men have a share of what they earn. That's the Quran. You earn $50,000, I earn $50,000. I am responsible for you as your husband, right? Which means I have to spend on household needs. You're part of that, okay? So if you donate to the expenses of the household because my 50 is not enough, that's a charity on your part. But no one should compel a wife to work and sweat to spend on a man. The Quran in ayah 34 says that الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله به بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. That Allah has given men some authority over the affairs and the needs of the women for two reasons. Number one, whatever Allah has given of each one of them of qualities and bounties and gifts, and because of what they spend of their own money on them, women. So the leadership in the family comes because of these two reasons, according to the Quran. So this matter is not subject to personal opinion. This is not a viewpoint. This is what the Quran is saying. Allah from the beginning, who knows everything in His creation, He says that He created women with certain abilities and things they can do no man could do at all, even if they try. Okay? No man will ever be mothering the children. Right? And because of women having to carry that very heavy duty and responsibility of raising the new generation of the Ummah, Allah, in His divine knowledge and wisdom, decided that men should spend on their wives so that their wives have their energy and emotions available to take care of the rest of the needs of the family. So now the question is not about where you were born, what generation are you in, what century are you in, how much civilized a society you come in is. It is about whether you want to live according to Allah's distribution of responsibility and authority, or do you want to establish your own. It is that clear in my head because it is mentioned in the Quran.
I mean, for me, I'm okay with that, but I hear so many young boys, and I don't agree with them 100%. But what they would say is, well, I want to work, okay? And because I work, I get home at 7. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I can cook. When he comes early, he can cook on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I have no problem with cooperation between the two. The Quran encourages cooperation. But don't make it look like the law.
No, just what? Okay.
Because there's a difference between saying, listen, we are a very mutually respectful, caring couple, and we've decided I'm comfortable this way and he's comfortable this way. That's okay. I have no problem with that. You are magnanimous, he is generous, fine. But don't make this look like the law. Because other wives may prefer to be home. Other wives may prefer to work only part-time. So if you make it look like the law, it has to apply to everybody. What has to apply to everybody is something that has to come from a power bigger than ourselves. Then it becomes applicable to everybody because He has the wisdom and the knowledge to tell us what to do. But when we use our wisdom as a substitute for His, our knowledge as a substitute for His, and we are comfortable with that, that's okay. So long as it does not violate the law and it does not substitute the law. The West has gone through a journey of family degradation until families became the exception. And even they have been changed. Even the word family now, I was reading a marriage license today, and it lists the name of the husband, and then it says what? Something like parent or spouse, and then it says male and female, which means our marriage certificates are ready to say a husband and a wife is an old concept. Now it is a person and a person, and it can be male or female on either side. Any other question on that issue? Okay. Anyone, if you have any question, any objection, any opinion, that's okay. We can discuss it. Yes. Yes, yes. Both husband and wife, they need to consult on matters that affect anyone more than themselves in the family.
But sometimes some sisters, they feel that if they consult it will be either negative or more problem. They would rather not to consult it, not to cause a problem. So if you take a consultation, the things get brought it up will cause a problem. If you do, it will be better off just leave your own, not to tell.
Yeah, that if they decided that eventually they are going to live by themselves. This is good if their ultimate purpose is that one day they will live by themselves. But if they want to live with a spouse, somebody who shares life and and room and board together, then even roommates, they consult. They say, when are you coming back? When do you think, are you traveling? And so if people who are strangers consult because they live together, right? Then what about people who actually are so intimate in their life?
But the point is that it will create a problem for the family. I mean, if you think you will get a negative feedback all the time.
Yeah, but this is like a child. I'm sorry. It's like a child who says, "I'm not gonna tell my dad that I'm going to the baseball. I'm gonna tell him I'm going to study with my friend, because if I tell him I'm going to baseball, he's gonna tell me no."
So regardless of the consequences, you have to.
Yes, because if he doesn't have an input, if he discovers, would this make him mad? Right? So you want to make him mad so that he doesn't have a chance to say no? Think about the prospect of what you're talking about. You're saying, I don't want to tell him something because he may say no, or I know he will say no, but that's his authority. If you could convince him, fine. If you couldn't convince him, he bears responsibility. When he tells you no for something, he should have said yes. Okay? So don't try to strip him of his responsibility because you're afraid he would say no. Let him say no. Huh? Yes, yes. The consequences will be on him. But if you don't tell him, the consequences will be on you. And it will be worse. Right? Balance. Okay. Another.
Where there may be situations where there are conflicts, say, between what somebody may feel they want to do for their parents, and their spouse may say, oh, we need to, we don't need to. Because I think
Yes. People need to start off from grounds that we are an extended family for each other. Like, extended families play a great deal of role in our lives. They take care of their grandchildren when we need them, and they stand with us when there is a crisis. We should stand with them when they need us also. So we should start off from that foundation. If this foundation is not there, then trying to use anybody's opinion without this foundation is going to create personal taste. If I like my in-laws, I will approve anything you want to do for them. If I don't like any one of them, I will tell you this one, no, all the time. But if I am motivated by my faith and my principles, then there is something in common that we can always talk about. Okay? So we need to establish always a foundation. The foundation of good relationship. Okay, yes.
Question. So what if you have like a family member that wants to borrow money? So
Wants to borrow money? Yes.
actually, check with your spouse before you lend out the money?
Yeah, there is a question that I need to ask before I answer your question. Let us say my brother wants $500,000 and I have 20 million, right? I give him the $500,000 and I die. And I didn't tell my wife anything. Does she inherit 20 million or 19 and a half?
Nothing. Because you didn't tell that you lent the money out, so how she's
The
gonna get anything
brother-in-law
back?
owes,
Huh?
the brother-in-law owes the sister.
He owes it, but I didn't tell her. That is true. That is true. How if he did not? That is true, but this is her money. This is her money and her children's money, and she needs to manage. So what I'm saying is, whenever there is somebody's right in the middle of anything, they have to be consulted. It is like, let us use a known rule. If I borrow $10,000 from you, and then in few months, right, I'm going to Hajj, and I'm spending $10,000-$20,000 on my trip, would this make you happy? So should I ask your permission before I go, or pay you your money? You want your money, right? So what I'm saying is, Islam says before you go to Hajj, you have to be free from due loans. If there's a loan that is due, right, then you have to get rid of it. If it is within range of the Hajj expenses. Somebody would say, for example, I have a loan on the home. It's $300,000. Should I make Hajj first or should I pay off my house? No. Go make your Hajj because your house is going to take the rest of your life. So the example I'm trying to bring to your attention is when I owe you something, I owe you also that I ask your permission before I use your money for something that you could have a say over.
Now, what if it was your money though, but not his money?
If it is the wife's money and she wants to lend her family or her friend, and it is that portion that she has control over, she can give money and lend money at her own free will. Likewise, if the husband has his own money, after spending on the family, satisfies all basic needs, and he has money in the saving, he can give it to his mom, to his sister's wedding, to anybody he wants. Do they need to consult with each other? Yes, as a matter of courtesy, but not as a matter of right. Because they inherit each other. Do you know when we say they inherit each other means what? It means that my money is eventually yours and your money is eventually mine. It depends who goes first. So if you have 10 million and you give somebody 5 million because we don't need it for cookies or flour or anything like this 5 million, you are much better off consulting with me. Especially some people, they don't have good judgment about either people or money or business or investment, right? So when we consult, we put our two heads together, our combined experience, knowledge, and assessment together. So we benefit from consultation. Okay, very good. Any other question? Okay. Mutual and shared responsibilities. The husband and the wife should see each other as two companions traveling in a journey going to Allah. يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه. We are all traveling going to Allah, right? In this journey, we together and individually must learn as much as we can. We must develop as much as we can. Develop our character, our resources, develop our ability to be righteous, develop our relationship with Allah and with people. All of this is mutual. So what I learn should be yours. What you learn should be mine. Okay? And what I develop of resources or skills should be also put to your benefit, not only for myself. And we should do this together. And that's why I always tell husbands and wives, especially fresh married couples, I always tell them, pray together, read Quran together, cook and eat together, make joint friends together, reach out to your neighbors together, because this reinforces the power of marriage. You don't live as an individual. It's like in marriage, we are two legs in one body. We're not separate legs in the same body. Okay, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. The husband and the wife have both the right and the responsibility to correct each other. Not only the husband correcting the wife, but the wife also correcting the husband. Both should always do it with respect. Love, compassion, mercy, and respect for the spouse and for your in-laws. It is very important. You can't divorce your husband or your wife from their family and expect them to be happy. Honesty, trust, acceptance, consideration, openness, support, guidance, care, all of these are basic human qualities that strengthen the bond in the relationship. So when you want something and he wants something different, tagging with each other along is very important. One time you will agree with him because he's more comfortable, and some other time he would agree with you. Then so long as we play along, we move along, things will be always easy. But when we drive a wedge in the relationship because I don't like it this way, that's okay, you don't like it, but I want you to cooperate. But we're not used to do this in our family. That's okay. We have our own family and we want to set our own culture. It doesn't have to be my culture or your culture from where we came from. Meeting each other's expectations. Both husband and wife have the right in what is called ihsan, to protect each other from vice. They both have to work whatever it takes to satisfy each other's needs. Because if they don't, those needs will be satisfied from some other party outside the family. So they have to work diligently to please Allah by protecting each other from vice and from deviation away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being pleasant and working for the spouse's pleasure. Very important that your husband knows that you are a pleasant and a pleasing person, and he is the same to you. That state of being pleasant and pleasurable and easy is very important. Mending differences immediately or as soon as possible. Differences will happen. We will never become angels. Never. But we should never descend into the level of devils. We should never descend close to that. Agreeing to joint policies for everything. When we have guests, this is how we're going to handle the situation. When we are going as guests to your friends or my friends, my family or your family, this is how we do it. We're going to a journey. This is what we expect. We're going for shopping. This is how we do the shopping. Because if everything has a rule and a principle, everything is predictable. When anything is unpredictable, it creates problems. So let us talk about two people traveling together for a trip like New York or anywhere else. It's a trip of 4 hours, but they're going to spend like a week in New York, right? If they don't have everything planned and more things keep popping up, both of them will get nervous very quickly. But if they have planned at least whatever they control, that's where we're staying, this is how long we're going to be, these are the friends we're going to visit, these are the places we're going to have dinner at, and so on and so forth. If we plan as much as we can, we lessen the points of disagreement and friction. And we have to also recognize the fact that as long as there are options, there will be taste and there will be inclinations and there could be differences. But we have to plan so that we lessen the chance for differences. Joint policies in the family activities, events, and all of that helps much more when it comes to raising a child than all other things. Because if you see your child with your eyes and your husband sees the child from a different prism, you will never agree as to what works for him, where is his interest, what are his skills, what is his attitude, what is he in need of. All of these will be open for discussion. So instead of discussing where he wants to go today, you will be always discussing what do you think he is. So if your husband thinks, poor him, he's always under your pressure, you're always asking him to do things, you're always pressuring him to sit down and study, you don't give him a chance to breathe. If that is your husband's view of what you're doing to your own child, definitely he's not going to cooperate with you. As we mentioned early on in this series, الحكم على الشيء فرع عن تصوره. Judging a matter depends on your perception of that matter. So if his perception of what you're doing with the child is different from your perception, each one of you will always fight over what policy should we follow to help that child grow as best as we can. If your views are not the same in terms of what is Islam, what is hijab, what is mixing with the other gender and what is not, what are the limits, if all of these are not set clear policies, they will keep popping up in discussions and they may create hostility and clashes all the time. So it is much better that we have a set of policies that we know where the limits are, where is the room for ijtihad and opinion, and when there is not. So joint policies are very important. Cooperation in raising children, dividing your role and his role, your relationship. Some families, they say, I will be the good cop, you will be the bad cop. It doesn't work this way because children are smarter than parents most of the time. And they know how to manipulate this gap. So they go for you for things that they know you will approve. They go for him for things that he would approve. And they know how to divide the labor between the two of you. But when you have a joint policy, a joint understanding, you, the parents, will be in control, not the child. Any question about those? Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Who comes first Islamically, the wife or the mother to the son?
Well, they shouldn't be a competition. The wife has a relationship that the mother cannot have. And the mother has a relationship that the wife can never have. So they should respect each other's position and not compete to take each other's rights or otherwise places. It shouldn't be a competitive relationship. Both of them lose when they compete over the son and the husband. If the wife competes with her mother-in-law over her husband, she loses her husband and her mother-in-law. And the mother that tries to compete with her daughter-in-law over her son, she loses her son and she loses her daughter-in-law. The husband and the wife should always be the best bridge between their spouses and their in-laws. So let us say A is married to B. If A communicates about B all the wrong things she does to his or her mom and dad and everybody, she is actually destroying her role as a bridge between her husband and his in-laws. But if she always communicates best news, they would love to always be in good relationship with her husband. So it actually works in the opposite way that we think. When we complain, we should not complain to our side of the family. For two practical, simple reasons. Number one, they don't know your husband more than you do. So you're asking somebody who has less experience, right, and less knowledge to give you a judgment that's better than yours when you actually know your husband more than they do. Right? The second reason is when people do not know, they ask questions, right? So when they ask you questions to give you a better advice, they end up digging your private life more than you would have wanted them to know, right? And you are lured to do this because you want their help, you want their opinion, right? That means you are killing the privacy in your family with your own hands. But for example, if a wife is upset with her husband and she goes not to her mother, but she goes to his mother and talk to her like her own mother. Like, I noticed this, I'm coming to you as my mom and his mom. What were you doing when he would do something like this? How do you make him happy? How do you give him comfort when he's upset or frustrated? His mom knows him since he was a child. She knows him inside out. So she is in a better position to counsel you regarding how to make him happy than your own mom. Provided that you're not going to her with a complaint, you're going to her for advice. And there's a big difference. It's a matter of perspective. Well, you need to recognize the fact that because of the emphasis in Islam in particular, that your mother, some people think that mother at all expenses. Period. Mother at all expenses. She is number one, she is number 10, and she is number 0. She is who she is, and you have to live with her as is, as if the wife is married to the mother and the child and the father and the siblings and everybody else. I believe that this is an extreme position, but unfortunately it is prevalent in many people's head, not because of the culture, because people misunderstand what it means to be good to your mother. They think that if I kill my wife and my mom is happy with it, I'm doing fine. But that's not what Islam is saying. Islam is saying this has rights that the other one doesn't have. And this has rights that the other one doesn't have. Don't confuse one for the other and don't treat them as competitions. Do you know where there could be a competition? When he is married to 2 women. Yes, they are in competition. Because they both equally own you in a way. I don't mean it literally. They both have the same exact rights. So when they look at each other as competition, they are right. But the mother and the wife of her son are no competition.
I understand it's apple and orange, but I thought Islamically there are sometimes when the mother will come first in some matters and the wife comes first in other matters.
I don't see it as a competition. It's either first or last. Mother has a place where I have duties to her as a son that has nothing to do with my wife. If my wife wants to compete, she will lose. And if my mother wants to compete with my wife, my mother will lose. Because they would be asking for what is not theirs. Because they are not equals, they are not in the same position.
Can you
Yes.
give sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say my own mother has a joke that she says regarding her relation. She said that when I was a daughter-in-law, it was the age of the mother-in-law. And now that I'm a mother-in-law, it's the age of the daughter-in-law.
Yeah, yeah. Many people feel the same. Yeah.
Shasha, can you give an example of, just one example of that, of where the mother-in-law has a right in a certain area and the wife has a right in a certain area?
Okay. Mom says to her son, I want you to come and spend Thursday night with me. But this Thursday, he had 3 nights of fights with his wife, and they agreed to reconcile and spend that night together. Whose night this is?
The wife?
Hers? Yeah, the wife.
But we should not resolve this with the sword of my judgment. We should resolve it by, Mom, how about if I come to you on Wednesday instead of Thursday? How about if I come to you on Friday because I had some issues with my wife and we decided to sit down and hash it out on Thursday night. So sometimes they will compete over your time, right? But no one should compete over somebody else's right. So if I am visiting my mom and she is in a hospital, right? My wife shouldn't jump on the phone and say, could you leave your mother and come right now? No, I couldn't. Because I am doing my duty. Likewise, when I'm doing my duty for you, my mom cannot grab me, otherwise I cannot be 2 people to be in 2 places at the same time. But if there is something urgent, fine. But because you're angry, you think it's urgent? No, it's not. Because a child got on your nerve, you want to make it an emergency? It shouldn't. Okay, I think we passed the time for Iqamah. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khair.